Hi, welcome to Aptico Live Online 2021, our 15th annual user conference. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. I hope you'll be able to join us again tomorrow. We have a great 2 days scheduled for you in a fantastic online workspace. We never expected when we created our online conference last year that we would need to do it again in 2021, but it doesn't seem quite right to meet in person just yet. Even though Boris cancelled Christmas, each of our offices have continued working throughout lockdown, allowing people to work from home, contributing to the software that you use. We have some great use cases to show you later in the conference. Each of our offices are reopening. In Sydney, our staff have just emerged from over 100 days in lockdown. And in Rotterdam and in Frankfurt, our teams are working in the office when they can. We're looking forward to hosting 2 great days for you. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoy the conference.
Aptico is committed to delivering more and more capability into the Orbit platform. Every 2-week development sprint, users will see new great features arrive in the user interface for you to take advantage of straight away. It is our goal to unite all of the products within the Orbit platform in the future. Of course, Fast Stats and PeopleStage being the detailed, hardcore systems that will deliver much more functionality for analysts and campaign managers will be there supporting the Orbit platform for some time to come. Over the last 18 months, Aptico has made it its mission to support our partners and customers in the best way we can. We've been adaptive and flexible in how we've issued licenses. We've kept systems running the best way we can to support customers through the pandemic and ensure that they come out of this situation in the best possible shape. We've been really proud of how our partners have behaved and reacted and supported customers during this period, and it's kind of reinforced our partner relationships and how we understood we worked together. Over the last few months, we've seen extremes, it's fair to say. We've seen businesses that have lost their whole marketing team or have failed completely. Conversely, we've also seen businesses that have been overwhelmed by the demand that they've seen. Businesses have had to adapt. We saw a real shift in people's interest in different online channels, such as social media. This naturally led to people being more interested in what Aptico could offer in this space. Since then, we've seen customers configuring their systems in various ways to take advantage of social media channels like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Google. Everyone loves an Aptico award, whether it's internally at Aptico or externally with our partners and clients. Each year we get to see great case studies that are put forward showing the real-world use of our software. There's great demand to see the use cases from all of our customers and how well they've used the software. It would have been the 11th award last year in 2020, but it didn't take place for obvious reasons. As a consequence, this year, we've seen a record-breaking number of entries for the award. And over the next couple of days, you'll have the chance to vote on your favourite.
You might remember last year, I told you we had bought a second office in Warwick. It's to allow Aptico to expand. It's called the Athenaeum, and with a name like that, you might imagine it's a historic building. Indeed, it is. Created after the Great Fire of Warwick in 1694, drawn by Canaletto in 1740, and with a stone facade fitted in 1780. We're now renovating this beautiful building. In fact, we've used all the time in lockdown working with the planners, working with the listed building team to create a great workspace for our team and a place that we will be delighted to invite you to come and visit us. The additional space means we can recruit additional designers, developers, content authors, testers, marketers, admin people, all that goes into producing great software for you to use. I hope by this time next year, you'll be able to come and visit us in Warwick and see the new building at the Athenaeum. One of the few benefits of the lockdown is that working from home has meant we can recruit additional staff to work from their homes all over the country. That means the Aptico team has expanded to provide new capabilities in the software for you. That recruitment continues. We're recruiting technical authors, designers, developers, marketers, and admin team members to help produce the software that we deliver through our partner network worldwide. We will continue this process, growing the company with a hybrid working model, some people working from home, some people at the offices in Warwick. And we hope you'll be able to come and meet some of these new team members quite soon. Thank you for joining us for day one of Aptico Live Online 2021. We really hope you enjoy the day. To help you get started, we've put together some clips of Aptico returning to work in the office and some of the events around the world in the year since we were last together. Welcome to Aptico Live 2021. Thank you for joining us. And look at this fantastic space we've built. You can see where Mark Zuckerberg is going. It's certainly quicker to build buildings in the metaverse than it is in Warwick or in the physical universe. But we've got the world's biggest screen. We've got this beautiful airy workspace and a place to work together over the next couple of days. For those of you who don't know me, I'm James Alty, Managing Director of Aptico. I'll be your host for the next 2 days online. And we have sessions today and tomorrow at 9:30 Greenwich Mean Time through to 12:30. I know there are people joining from all over the world and in different time zones, but perhaps that's an easy reference back to Greenwich Mean Time. We have keynotes, we've got polls, we've got 6 streams with focus groups, we've got live software demos. It wouldn't be an Aptico conference without some live software. And of course, we've got prizes for you to win. And if you want to win one of those prizes, you can engage with us in this online workspace by using the hashtag Aptico Live on your tweets, on your posts, and on your questions. That will help us recognise that you're talking to us in the conference. Now, we have a fantastic platform for you. You've seen the intro video. It's got a menu in the platform where you can access the dashboard with the Twitter wall. And through there, you can get to the focus groups. You can download the booklet about our finalists in the Best Use of Aptico software competition. You can ask questions, you can use chat, you can give reactions. Last year, I think we had over 2,000 reactions during the conference. It's a great way for the speakers to know what you're loving and what's not working for you. If you have any problems with the platform, there's a tech support team available for you, and we have moderators online to answer any questions that you have during the day. So our agenda for today starts with a development update. I'll take you through some of the recent developments and perhaps more exciting through some of the forthcoming developments. I'm going to demo some of those live for you today. We'll then take a quick break when you can use your delegate pack and the contents of it before we see the 5 finalists in our Best Use of Aptiko Software 21 competition. We're going to show you the great work that your peers have done using the Aptiko software to cope and contribute to their organisations in the time of COVID lockdown. How's marketing been used using the Aptiko software? Well, we've got some great examples for you from different sectors and from different countries. And after watching those videos, you will have a chance to vote for your favourite in recognition of the work that that team has done using our software. You can download a booklet, as I say, from the platform. If you go to the dashboard, you'll see there's a finalists tab or an award tab, and you can download the finalists booklet. So perhaps during the break, take a chance to scan through that before you see the video presentations from each of the teams. You'll then have a chance to choose one of 6 streams. We call them focus groups or breakout sessions, and we have streams covering the more technical aspects right the way through to the more creative aspect. So you can use whichever of those streams you wish to learn more about the Aptiko software. The same focus groups will run again tomorrow, so you can choose a second one tomorrow that you wish to join. When we come back from those focus groups into this great workspace, you'll have a chance to win some of those prizes. I'll announce who's won the prizes of the day. Tomorrow we have a similar agenda, starting with a keynote from Sweden, from Andreas Ekström, a TED speaker, a journalist, an author, presenting to us from Lund in Sweden. He will be talking about the power of and, thinking about what else we can do with the technology that is now at our disposal and how we can use that to work with our audience and our customers. We'll then do a quickfire survey, and this is a survey that we've run now for maybe 10 or 11 years at the Aptiko conference, and we use it to produce the Aptiko Trend Report, a valuable insight into the changes in our sector and in the use of technology. We ask you to complete that survey in order to qualify for your Aptiko gift from the conference. The data you give us is a gift to us. It gives us insight and it allows us to produce the trend report. In return, we'd like to give you a gift. You then have the second chance to visit a focus group, and when we finish those focus groups, tomorrow we will have a panel session with 3 panelists, leading exponents in the marketing sector, talking about what they've seen change in the sector in the time of COVID, and we will discuss live tomorrow what we expect to develop, where we see the sector going. And we'll finish the day tomorrow and finish the conference with the announcement of the winner of the Best Use of the Aptiko Software 2021. Now, I said there are various chances to win prizes. The first is if you have resisted the temptation to open your delegate pack before now, we invite you to take a photo or a video of you unboxing it. The best videos that you put in, or the first 2 that we get, will win a copy of our keynote speaker Andreas' book, On Finding. That book will be our prize for the various activities during today. So if you haven't opened your delegate pack, do us a photo of unboxing it. First 2 will win a copy of Andreas' book. Similarly, if you tweet today, now there's going to be various different content, I'm sure, in the tweets, but we'll pick a couple of the best tweets to win a copy of Andreas' book. And just for fun, we've added a new high-tech feature this year to our online conference. We have a photo booth, and as you can tell, not only can you take a photo, but you can frame it and you can overlay it and you can put stickers on it and you can post it in the gallery. And the best 2 photos, judged by us in the gallery, we will give a copy of Andreas' book. So really just for fun, perhaps during the break, go and have a play with the photo booth. And finally, if you ask a question during the day, we value those questions. It gives us feedback. It gives us a chance to see what is interesting for you, what you'd like to know more about. So again, best 2 questions of the day. We will award a prize with Andreas' book. So our first session this morning is on a development update. A development update covering the work we've done in the year since the last conference. Let's start with a couple of areas that are not in the software, but are absolutely crucial to support the software. And the first is our Learning Hub. You can access this at any time you like by going to learning.apteco.com and requesting an account. And once you have an account, you can access all sorts of training resources. Now, many of you will know we have a beautiful training centre at our office in Warwick. It's sat there absolutely unused for the last 18 months since we went to lockdown. And it doesn't yet seem appropriate to be running courses at the office. But instead, our training team have been producing great content that you can use through the Learning Hub. And that includes comprehensive training on Orbit, our web platform, how new and existing users can operate that platform to gain the functionality that they need through Orbit. There's 5 comprehensive courses covering different parts of Orbit. But we've also produced content for the Apteco Marketing Suite. The Fast Stats and People Stage courses are on there. And you can access complementary Fast Stats courses on the Learning Hub, including one, for example, about expressions. Now, if you want to learn more about expressions, you could join Chris Rowe's focus group later in the conference, where he will tell you nearly everything you might ever want to know about expressions. In fact, lots of depth about what you can do with the powerful expression tool in the FastStats system. But on the Learning Hub, there are also quizzes and evaluations and something like 3 hours of mini videos in 5-minute segments where you can learn about topics. So that's also well supported by our Help Hub. This is where we put all of our documentation, our knowledge articles, the details of our releases and our capabilities. It's a fantastic resource and it's grown hugely in the year since we were last together. We've added to that area more details, for example, about the breadth of our software. It now includes FastStats Designer, it includes FastStats, it includes PeopleStage, it includes Orbit, it includes the documentation catalogue where you can find the published documents that we provide, and it newly has an area we call the integration matrix. It's a presentation of all the integrations that we support, all the downstream channels that we offer. And for each of them, there are multiple documents available for different types of users, whether you're a technician setting up the integration or you are a marketer operating that integration. We have lots of detail there for you to find. And you can look at and search that integration matrix by filtering by the type of integration that you need. And the Help Hub is searchable through public access. You can search on Google and get hits onto our Help Hub. The Help Hub is at help.apteco.com, super easy to get to. And if you navigate there directly, you can search within the Help Hub. And an interesting aspect of this is that the searches that you do, we can pick up from the Help Hub. Obviously from Google, we get some stats about search, but when you search on our Help Hub directly, we get the search terms, we get the search results, and we can see what content you are looking for. And that helps us decide what further content to author. But if you're searching for functions that we don't yet offer, it also helps our product managers understand what is needed. If you're looking for something thinking Apteco will do it, and we don't yet, then we can learn from that. So a nice example, isn't it? The searches that you do about Apteco software come round to us and get put into the Apteco software where we can make that dashboard. That's a live, it's a snapshot, screenshot of the search term dashboard from about a week ago when Tony Zumaga, our technical author, took a screenshot for me. So please do come and visit help.apteco.com to learn more. Now, I'm going to rattle through what we've done over the last 3 quarters since the conference, and then we'll spend time looking at the live demo. So in the Q1 release, we improved date time selections so they're now more granular, down to hours and minutes and seconds, for example. We improved maps so that we can make selections directly using longitude and latitude. I'll demo you that in a minute. We made improvements to the decision tree so that we could put numeric variables and expressions onto the tree and show a new presentation called the mosaic of the decision tree, helping you understand the volume and validity of the different nodes in your decision tree. And part of that was to support work for our behavioural modelling technique so that we could now use decision trees as well as profiles with the behavioural features we can generate from your transactional data. Remember, behavioural modelling is about taking multiple different types of transactions, aligning them around date and time, and then understanding the behaviour of the individual. And looking at those individuals, we've also improved how we use social channels. So we, as you may know, can support paid ads on social, and we can target those using custom audiences picked from your first-party data, your customer data. But clearly, when you're picking who to target, the lookalike process on the social platform may pick up people that you do not wish to target, perhaps people who've opted out or people that have complained to you in some way. Or that are outside your scope. So now we allow you not only to send the target list for lookalikes, but an exclude list as well, so that you can control that social advert. Of course, in Q1, we updated the Orbit platform with the beautiful homepage that we showed you at last year's conference, the branded and designed page that gives you access to resources where administrators and users alike can easily navigate to the parts of Orbit that they need best. In Q2, we moved on with further work on maps. And again, I'll show you this live, allowing us to bring all the thematics that we have in cubes and trees, we can now apply to maps. And I'm going to demo that because it's nice and visual. It's an easy thing to see in an online environment like this. But we also made improvements right deep in the software, for example, to behavioural modelling, where we can now recognise event-based characteristics and features rather than just date and time based. So previously you might have had characteristics up to Christmas 2021. Now you can have a characteristic or a feature based on the date of someone's first order. So each person has a different date, but we can recognise that as the start of a stage of their journey. And behavioural modelling is about bringing together predictive analytics with customer journey analytics, using all the insights you can generate from masses of transactional data. And our systems are working hard on preparing all of that to make it easy for your analysts to use. Making things easier also applies to Orbit. We're constantly looking at how people use Orbit, and one area that we decided to rework was how we create filter criteria from a dashboard. A dashboard can contain multiple tiles. Those tiles can contain resources from different parts of your data. It could be data about your customer and the individual, but it could be data about transactions or communications, purchases or visits or use of the app. And each of those different parts of the data are now handled with a query created specifically around your use of that filtering on the dashboard. And that's both more intuitive for the user, but also more powerful in the data that we can select. It was one of those win-win changes, and it went in seamlessly, hardly a comment from the users, because I think we'd hit the natural sweet spot of how they expect that sort of function to work. Orbit's growing in functionality as well. In Q2, we introduced the ability to run campaigning from Orbit, particularly by allowing you to upload from an Orbit audience to an ESP, an email service provider, so that you can automate email broadcasting now just using the web product. And you can authorize users to make that sort of delivery direct from Orbit into the ESP. To help them understand what data is available, we've also improved the visualizations in the dashboard, improving how we label items on charts, allowing you to abbreviate numbers so you don't see all the digit and decimal detail. You maybe, for your managers, just want to present the total in thousands or millions. Now you can do that directly in an Orbit dashboard, as well as improved coloring and category control. And as I mentioned on the Help Hub, we've put the designer help, which has always been provided in the product and kept up to date. Now it's in our Help Hub, so it's publicly indexable and easier for you to get to without needing to launch the product. In Q3, we went on with improving the expressions tool. So for example, we gave the expressions tool the ability to reference data in a file. Why would that be helpful? Well, imagine that you've got a list of postcodes for all your branches and you open 5 new branches. You don't want to have to go and edit an expression to define those. Instead, now you can just put the postcodes in a central file. The expression can refer to that, and all of the uses of that expression benefit immediately from knowledge of the new branches in your network. And you can imagine a myriad of other uses. Similarly, we extended behavioural modelling so that as well as the training date, the evaluation date and the scoring date that the system naturally supports, we now allow that scoring date to be moved along as you update your data. So the behavioural features that you created and trained and then evaluated can be refreshed with the very, very latest data each time the system is updated, making behavioural modelling more powerful and more timely to allow you to decide which of the characteristics you would then use for scoring and which you then use for driving your campaigns. In Orbit, we introduced workspaces, an area for you to keep items together in common. If you're working on a particular campaign with some colleagues, you might make a workspace, keep all of your resources together in the workspace. And that allows you to see them all together, access them all together, and really keep track of the work you're doing. It makes Orbit a more practical platform for real-world tasks. We also enhanced how Orbit lets you search for resources, extending those resources so that it's no longer just a case of either search or browse. We kind of combined the two together, but also extended what you can search for to include URN files, unique reference number files that you might have prepared in FastStats, allowing you to use cohorts created in FastStats for work, for example, in an Orbit dashboard or in an Orbit audience. You could take a group identified externally and use that as the group to define the dashboard audience, for example. That reference to other resources, that ability for Orbit to use URN files or audiences is a really powerful new capability. You can now think of an audience created in Orbit as a building block, and you might have some central standard building blocks that you and your colleagues can use and reuse and refer to. So if you define, for example, your marketable universe, the group of people who are opted in your target group, well scored by your primary models and credit rated by your accounts team, then maybe you define that as your marketable universe, and other audiences and other definitions you use in Orbit, your dashboards, for example, can refer to that marketable universe. And then if you change the rule on the marketable universe, you can do it just in one place, and all of the other references to it will benefit. And when you edit one of those audiences that has dependencies on it, we will tell you. We'll flag up that this has dependence, and we will make sure that you know you're changing something that will have a wider impact. You unlock it, then edit it, and allow that new definition to be used in place. We also improved the campaign reporting inside Orbit. Orbit can see the campaigns that are running in your PeopleStage system, and actually now it can create PeopleStage campaigns for you automatically. I'll show you that live in a moment. And that ability now is supported with monitoring built into Orbit so that you can keep track of the execution of a campaign from wherever you're working, on whatever device you wish, at whatever time of day. You can see your audiences executing, your deliveries executing, without needing to use the big, powerful campaign automation platform that is PeopleStage. Now, let's move on to talking about some forthcoming highlights, forthcoming in the fourth quarter, some of them, but some that are also already out, some recent updates to Orbit. So behavioural modelling, we're seeing people use for real on significant data volumes, and that has led us to improve the user interface, the menu structure, the dialogues. We've rewritten all of that in a big effort to make it more usable and approachable prior to moving it into the Orbit platform. Our end goal is that this functionality will be presented for suitable and authorised users in Orbit. But we're also working on the performance. We've seen behavioural modelling used on systems with 1 billion rows, and it takes a very long time to calculate the behavioural features. We've done significant work to improve that performance and will continue to do so to ensure that it's a practical mechanism for you. We see this as a super important way of using the Aptico analytics capability to drive campaigning. It's really at the heart of what we're working on for our new analysis and modelling. So lots of new capabilities in there. Now, you might not recognise this young man, but you will probably recognise his name. John Venn, British mathematician and logician, and the first person to propose the idea of a Venn diagram. He drew it with circles. He actually went on to draw higher order Venn diagrams using arcs as well as circles. But guess what? We've added Venn diagrams into Orbit, and they can be beautiful, simple, three-way Venn diagrams like that classic shape, or they can be big and powerful Venn diagrams with multiple measures, and we support up to five-way diagrams as shown there. The Venn diagram is a super easy way to provide a visualization that not only gives insight, but it drives action, right at the heart of Aptico. Our goal is to be the world's best insight into action platform. And a Venn diagram, I think, is an iconic way for Aptico to deliver that. It's easy and approachable by non-technicians. They can see the overlap between different sets of data. And now with the Aptico Orbit implementation, in a browser, they can click on the subsets that they're interested in and take action by sending those through to a campaign. And again, I'll demo that for you in a minute. In terms of sending data out from Orbit, we support multiple channels, as you know, and in PeopleStage, all sorts of channels. There's 10 genres of channel, from the obvious email and contact center through to apps and CRM, through to push notifications and the sort of deliveries that you might do through your website. But now you can administrate that through Orbit. We've put the full channel editor in Orbit. Orbit itself at the moment only supports email broadcasting, but we will be working on introducing support for all the other channels in Orbit. But now, whether you're using PeopleStage or Orbit, you can do the administration in the channel editor. We've also strengthened the way that we export data from Orbit. Early on, we implemented the ability to create a selection and download it, but actually downloading data to a browser device is a little odd in the GDPR era, and we were given feedback that we needed more strength around that. So now we have it. You can require data to be zipped and encrypted before it leaves the server. And you can download, of course, to the browser device, or you can send to FTP sites or SFTP sites, as well as to the ESPs. So we've strengthened that data security. And in terms of data security and security in general, we have a fantastic enterprise-grade security model coming. Now, I've talked about this for years, and we have been working on it for years, but our team have now got the roles and rights mechanism built into Orbit, and I'll show it you live in the demo. But it also gives you an idea of the capabilities that we have to say that we've moved from a simple one user is a member of one group model, that's how the Aptico suite works at the moment, to a much more typical scheme where one user can be a member of multiple groups, and each group can have multiple permissions, and all of those permissions are managed for create, read, update, and delete, what the IT industry rather comically calls CRUD. That allows us to manage how you and your users can access the functionality and the data throughout the Aptico suite. So our team have produced an enterprise-grade strength mechanism. Just to give you an idea, I'm not going to demo the whole of it live, but here, for example, you can see that for a FastStats permission, we can define permissions down to an individual variable, or perhaps more typically, here we have a PeopleStage permission defined on a particular campaign. And you can see in the lower half of the screen, both groups like the administrators and individuals like the admin users who can then be given particular rights over that campaign. And those rights are then inherited from the groups to the users in a prescribed manner. So it's beautifully presented, it's easy to use, and super powerful. Talking about power, we've also added to the heart of the data model. Those of you who load data will know that we have the ability to support one-to-many relationships and many-to-one lookups, and sometimes you get disjoint data in those relationships. You might get, for example, a person without any transactions, but sometimes you might get a transaction that doesn't appear to link to a person. We call that an orphan, and it happens in the real world. You know, in the ideal world, everything will be completely tied up. We'll say it'll have perfect referential integrity. That's not what the real world contains. We have scruffy data, we have broken data, we have bits missing from our data, we have strange records left in the bottom of a system from some update years ago. All of that gets presented to the Aptico systems when you make connections to platforms or databases or do extracts for us. We cope with all that and always have, but now we've made it more easy and more apparent or transparent how that data is being handled. We've added an indicator on every row that can say whether it joins to its parent or not. It's optional, it's auto-created if you choose to do it, and it's super efficient in the query engine. And it's a really good item if you're an administrator who wants to present just the central, nice, clean data. You can use the orphan indicator to do that by using global filters. For some users, just filter to see the data that joins up. For other people, you will give them the full scope. And if you want to think more about different people with different roles, you could join Ade Hewitt's focus group later on. He's talking about personas and the different dashboards that you might present to them. And one of those is a data exploratory dashboard. And for some people, being able to go and poke into the edges of the data is really important. Other people, maybe your management team, don't want to see that. They want to see the central picture. Different dashboards for different personas really helps. One of the more exciting developments, and I must say rather up to the moment, up to the wire for this conference, is our integration with WhatsApp. Now, over the years, people have asked us, can you do WhatsApp messaging? And we've always said no. Neither WhatsApp nor their owner, Facebook, now Meta, allowed that. But Facebook and Meta have now decided that WhatsApp will allow a certain type of prescribed messaging for both service purposes and what they call quality messaging. Quality messages are those that are pre-approved, inspected by WhatsApp and Meta, and approved for certain organisations. And I'm proud to say, working with our partner Cineverse, we now have an integration that allows you to do this in PeopleStage. So if you follow us and become an approved WhatsApp business organisation, and you submit and get prior approval for your WhatsApp message templates, we can now help you message through PeopleStage campaigns scheduled to your requirement to opted in individuals through WhatsApp. And that's a very personal messaging system. You will have obligations to manage that person's consent and to maintain that consent, but it extends the previous opportunity where you had 24 hours to interact after a user-initiated message to a business WhatsApp account. Now, with that approval and with PeopleStage integration, you can run ongoing content and campaigns to WhatsApp. It's a fantastic capability. I know Cineverse were the first gold partner with WhatsApp worldwide. We are one of the first businesses to integrate with them, so it's a real leading capability. If you want to know more about that, join Martin and Florian's focus group this afternoon, where they will do the high wire act of demonstrating not only user-initiated messaging in WhatsApp, but emails connected to WhatsApp, the use of a chatbot. We don't sell chatbots, but an example of how you can use a chatbot to respond on WhatsApp, but then most importantly, showing how you can get the opt-in permission and then do a business-initiated message from PeopleStage driving the WhatsApp content. So that's Martin and Florian's focus group later on. And talking about that type of data, I'm delighted to say that we've made an extension on our real-time capabilities. Now, Aptico is best known as a batch-loaded data set that gives a great, powerful platform for analysts to understand the data about your customers, your first-party data, perhaps overlaid onto marketplace data, perhaps populated and enriched with external data. But it's always been a batch-loaded platform. And we know that in information engineering and the applications that enterprises use, quite often high-performance messaging is used to provide real-time data. And one of the leading platforms for that, in fact, I think the leading platform for that, is Apache Kafka. It was referenced recently in the ThoughtWorks Tech Radar as the high-performance messaging platform to consider if you were getting into that area. I'm pleased to say we've been considering it for the last few months in detail, and actually rather longer since we first identified it. And I'm pleased to say that we've now brought Aptico and Kafka together so that you can run real-time campaigns with data from a Kafka event stream that doesn't need to be loaded yet into your main FastStats dataset, into your Aptico dataset. You can message in milliseconds from an event stream using event data. But we can even go further than that because we've revamped our pull marketing data store. We introduced this some years ago as a platform to store high-performance data. So it's a little bit of the data that you might have from your Aptico system that you want to have accessible in milliseconds for when an interaction occurs, when a recipient pulls a request from you. So for example, they talk to the contact center, they use your app, they visit a point of sale, they visit the website. All of those things will happen at any time of day, and we don't know when. What we can do now with the pull marketing store is prepare data ready for that event. The two things combine beautifully. It means if somebody visits a website, for example, does an action, we can fire an event. If we recognize that person, for example, we've got a loyalty, a card account number, or we've got an email address, then we can match that onto the Pulse marketing store and use data that we already know about. It doesn't matter if we don't know them, we can still use the message data to send them a campaign or an event of some sort. So I'll demonstrate some of that live in a minute. The two things work together beautifully. And let's just see a schematic of that. So here's a people stage campaign. Alongside it, we have the low latency pull marketing data store. We're actually using MongoDB, but we will support other NoSQL databases, and you can use SQL Server for this as well. That's defined in the Aptico admin suite, and People Stage can be commissioned, for example, at 6 every morning to load data into that pull marketing store. You might use our best next offer mechanism to put data into the store. When something happens out on the internet, we get an event, it comes through Kafka, we recognize that, and we can use that to run a campaign that references the store, matches anything it can, and produces an output. And then we can store that data that we can use to update the comms history asynchronously. So a really neat mechanism. Now, let's have a look at some of that live. I'm going to go over to FastStats first, and we will use some of the mechanisms. I can't show you everything that we have just been talking about, but I'll show you some of those mechanisms. So let's just add a map onto this dataset. It's a nice visual technique, as I said, and I'm going to do a super simple map to start with. I'm just going to do a map by postcode area, and we will see a nice coloured map showing the postcodes, and you can see the legend on the right-hand side broken down into deciles. Now, the new capability I mentioned is that we now support all of the thematic banding that we have in the cube and tree tools. So all of these, for example. So I could, for example, say that I would like to see the top 30 postcode areas, in this case just using the default measure of count of customer, and there's lots of choices about how you might shade the map, but or value the map, but this is just showing some shading. Let's say you might look at any postcode that has more than 10,000 records in it, or perhaps more powerful, we can use something like the default, and I could say I want to do quartile banding, so we've now got 4 quartiles. So nice colouring schemes, but we also have an extension, which is we have a new selection mechanism called Legend, and the Legend is now alive. I've got my 4 quartiles calculated in here. You can see I can just click on the quartiles, and that allows me to auto select, and I can grab those, drag them out, and if I just drop them as a new tab, you will see that it's automatically created a selection for me of postcode areas, and that list of postcode areas will show me the high scoring postcodes. In fact, it's just requesting that live. There you go, from the server, and there's our postcodes. Those are the bigger postcodes that we have picked. So nice and easy and quick to do. Let's just turn that off and zoom into the centre of the country. We're in Warwick, and you will perhaps remember that we have the ability to scribble on a map. So I can create a sort of wiggly shape on the map. That we now support also with a drag off, and I can grab the drag handle, drag that off and drop it, and you will see that we've created a selection that this time is referring to a polygon. That polygon has 262 points. Those were the tiny wiggles of my mouse as I drew that shape. And if we have a look at that, we can select on it to see how many records fall within that particular part of the database. You can see 21,000 records fall in there. A rather neat way of using that selection power is to update the map. And so I could add another layer. I'm going to say that I would like a plot map, and I'm actually going to go back to the map, grab my scribble area and drag it over to that new layer and drop it on my filter panel. So I'm now going to show a plot map based in this case on latitude and longitude, which is just here. I'll drop those two variables on, and now I can show that new expression that we've added, it's warning me it's going to have too many dots, but it'll show some of them on the map. You can see that new expression has given us the dots that fit exactly just into that area, even down to halfway through the dot. We can see that capability. So nice new mechanisms on the map. Let's take that selection that I dragged a moment ago and actually save it, because I'm going to use it in a moment in my demo. So let's drop that into a folder I created here called Aptico Live, or ALO21. And I chose to export it as a set of unique reference numbers. So we have 21,900 unique reference numbers. Let's go and use those in Orbit. So I've already logged into Orbit. This is our demo system. As I should have said, all of this is running on our training database, the holidays database. Now, I, in this case, can go and explore all sorts of wonderful resources. We've got links to help and release notes and the Learning Hub. We've got the details of what's been shared with me, my recent work and all those sorts of things. And actually, I'm logged in as an administrator, so I've got various other options up here at the top. But for today's purposes, I'm going to create a dashboard, and I'm going to create this live right now by putting a new tile on here, and we're going to start with a Venn diagram. So let's choose to add a Venn, and I'm going to add several sets, but we'll start by defining some measures. So we're going to count the number of people, and we're going to also add up some values on here. So I'm going to go and take the lifetime spend, and I'm going to calculate an average of the lifetime spend on each of my sets. Let's add those sets, and we'll start with one which is my local customers, and this is the people that I picked from that scribbled area on the map. They're local to our office in Warwick, and so using the new search function, I can go and search not only for variables and audiences, but also for files. And you'll recognize there's the folder I just used, and there is the selection actually also contains one that I dragged earlier. So let's pick that group of people. In fact, did the other one have the right number? Let me just see if I picked the right one just to make consistency. Yes, it was that one, selection number 2, 21,000 people, and I will apply that to my set, and there's our first part of our first live Venn diagram appearing. Let's make a second set, and I'm going to choose, in this case, to use a variable. So I'm going to search and find a very simple variable, in this case, occupation, and I'm going to pick people who work in sales or retail, and let's actually name this as sales, for example. Let's add one more set to make the classic three-way Venn diagram, and we'll call this my target group. And I'll go and search this time for an Orbit audience, one that I've created previously, and I'm going to use my target group as the audience. You can see it has counted for me. The latest version has 48,000 people in it, and beautiful. We've got a three-way Venn diagram. Let's just give it a name, and we will call it overlap analysis, and I'll save that Venn diagram. Now it's rather small at the moment, so let's make it a great deal bigger. And let's just add one other tile on here, super easy one. I'll just put the number card on to count. And we've made the search panel much easier for you to pick resources. So you can just say, I want to count the number of people. For example, these are actually all customers. Let's just save that with Aptico live demo. I better spell our name right, and nice, so that we can see it. There you go. So we've got a nice dashboard, Aptico live demo. There's our Venn diagram. Now I don't know how big a screen you're using. I've got a nice big one here, but the point is some of these numbers might be quite small. Well, we thought about that. Not only do you get the numbers on the sets, but you get numbers on the intersection. And if I click on one of those numbers, we'll zoom it for you. So we can see there's 2,299 people with an average lifetime spend of 964 who fall in the middle. They're in all three sets. If I pick one of the other areas, of course, you'll get they're in two sets and not in the third. Of course, these areas are also live. So if I filter on that, for example, well, we know how many customers we're going to get back, 2,299 from the center of the Venn diagram. Lovely. But let's just do a little more. Let's go and add on here a couple of additional charts. So I'm going to add on a column chart, and I'm going to make this just look at the holiday destinations. We'll just count the number of bookings for now. So we'll say these are destinations. But the eagle-eyed amongst you might have noticed a new capability up here. We now have a filter that can be applied separately to every tile. And I'm going to do this in a super simple way. Let's just search for gender, and I will choose the gender variable, and I'll make this tile contain males. So this is destinations, but only now containing the male customers in our database. Let's just apply that, and I'll remember to label this one as male and apply that. And then let's duplicate that tile, and you can see already we have the filter in place, but I'm going to change it from male to female and apply that. And I'll remember to change the name to female and apply it. So let's now just save that. So this filtering capability gives us true power. Look at this. We can now see there's a difference in the travel destinations for males and females. The males perhaps more to America, the females more to France and Germany. And of course, that is going to act as we pick on the bits of the Venn diagram or any other visualization that will choose those subsets and give us the breakdown for those different individuals. And you can see quite a different shape. So we've got a much more powerful capability coming in the dashboard. Now, we've got 29,000 people. Let's go do something with them. I will make them into an audience, and I'm going to call these a live campaign, and not worry about the spelling. So I'm going to create that campaign. It's actually created an audience for me. That audience contains the rule, and here is all of the rules for those different segments of the Venn diagram written out for us, including reference to the variables and the target groups that we used. And incidentally, we can now add user-defined criteria onto the dashboard filter as well. And without using a tile, we'd just go add a variable, and that would be included. But we've got our people. Let's just check their profile, so we can go look at their customer profile. So it will go and find that group of records and give us a breakdown for them, so we can see where they are in the country. And I'm happy with that group, so let's go and export them. And this is new. Previously, we allowed you to download or FTP the data, but now we can use a variety of channels. So let's, in this case, just use our demo channel. You can see, actually at the moment it's only email, but we'll add more in due course. We can choose an appropriate template, and we can choose an appropriate message content. This is retrieved live from the email broadcaster. This one is just a dummy one. So I've chosen the channel, the template, the content, I've given it a name, and so I can export that, and it will go and export that those records to PeopleStage for me. Now that will take a moment, and we'll maybe go and see that in PeopleStage in a minute. But just given the time, let's go have a look at the application settings. And here we can see the channel editor. This is the new capability for the administrators. And there, for example, is the definition of the channels that we just saw. But you can see other channels, including pull marketing and the real-time campaign, for example, data is all held in there. So we've sent a campaign to PeopleStage. Let's go have a look at PeopleStage. And here's a couple of campaigns that I'm not going to run live, but which just give you an idea of picking, for example, new users coming through from our event stream and updating our pull marketing store. So we're updating content into that store. In fact, in this case, the content is a default offer. Whereas if we are looking at a known user, which the second half does down here, we're picking the best next offer. And that best next offer will be picked up, for example, by a campaign like this one. This is a campaign running from an event stream. So after a trigger, picking from a Kafka event stream, and I can just show you those are now supported in the library here. We have the Kafka teal green registration stream that we've defined through the admin suite. And that is being used to pull content from Kafka, not from the FastStats data store. This is coming from Kafka into a campaign that we're delivering, in this case, by email. So let's have a go live. I'm going to go to a website, which is our fictitious holiday company website. And I'm going to register, and I'm going to say, this is James Alty, and I'm going to use a demo email address. And we're going to put in a voucher code to claim our offer. I'm going to say that I found you through the website. And when I press register, we're going to fire an event through a Kafka message queue straight to PeopleStage, which is listening to that message queue. So let's hit register. While it's doing that, let's go to PeopleStage. And in fact, I can't swap the screen quickly enough. It's already running. That event has arrived. It's running to push that message out for us to send the detail to, in this case, an email broadcaster. Actually, the email broadcaster is going to take much longer than the time that we needed to trigger that process. That event will run in a few seconds inside PeopleStage. What we actually do is we wait 1 second after the first event to gather any others. We process the campaign. It's an ephemeral campaign. There's no pool allowed in here. It's just processing that external data. As soon as we finish, we'll check for any more events on the Kafka message queue. And if there are any, we'll run all of those as a batch and then go back round. So this campaign might actually look like it's active all the time, picking up batches of events depending on the volume of the data that you've done. Let's just go have a look. You remember earlier in the demo, I created a campaign from Orbit. This is where it is created. So we will see that campaign will actually be presented here. I think we'll see it actually in the area. There it is. It just arrived at Tico Live campaign. So that is the campaign that we just created from Orbit. If you're a PeopleStage user as well, you can see it actually inside PeopleStage, and we can see that it's running now and not yet delivered anyone. So Orbit initiated that, but it is now running in PeopleStage. In fact, there it is. It finished while we're looking at it. 29,300 people have received that message, and hopefully the email that I sent earlier has arrived. There it is, 10:29 a.m. just at the end of my dev update. That is the message that I just sent with a voucher code push123, and that data isn't in FastStats. It's come straight through from the Kafka message queue. So we've seen a real-time campaign. We've seen a Orbit-initiated campaign. We've seen some of the many new features that we've generated in Orbit and in FastStats and in PeopleStage, but there's loads. I can't